Have you ever had one of those moments, where everything just clicks? Time feels like it's standing still, and you feel this incredible sense of joy and connection to everything around you? Well, it turns out we're all kind of chasing that feeling. And today, we're going to dive deep into what's known as the peak experience.
So this idea of a peak experience isn't new. It actually comes from the famous psychologist Abraham Maslow. For him, this was the absolute pinnacle of human potential, the very top of his famous pyramid of needs. He called it self-actualization. It's that unbelievable moment where you feel like you are becoming everything you were meant to be.
So what does that even mean? What are we talking about here? Well, imagine feeling a sense of total harmony, where everything you do feels completely effortless. There's this sense of childlike wonder, this kind of mysterious, ecstatic feeling, but at the same time you're incredibly calm. It's just this deeply fascinating and wonderful state to be in.
Okay, that all sounds pretty amazing in theory, right? But let's get real. What's the raw, unfiltered human emotion behind all this? What do people actually say it feels like when they're in the middle of it? Well, here's one person's take on it. Simple. Powerful. It feels like I've arrived in heaven. Just this feeling of reaching the ultimate destination. But we're just getting started. Now listen to this one. It's got a completely different energy, almost primal, right? Joy, happiness, excitement, stimulation. It drives me wild with pleasure. So this isn't just some quiet, peaceful bliss. This is a full-on wild ride.
And the intensity just keeps ramping up. Check out the wording here, an almost unbearable ecstasy. That tells you something, doesn't it? It's a feeling so powerful it's right on the edge of being too much to handle. And for our final description, wow, a sudden eruption of flames, intense, all-consuming, and exquisite. It sounds almost violent, doesn't it? But also beautiful. So what on earth could possibly trigger such a profound, all-consuming feeling? The answer might actually surprise you.
The source for all of those incredibly powerful, almost spiritual quotes. The peak experience of a sexual orgasm. Yep, kind of surprising, right? But it takes this very high-level, abstract concept and grounds it in something deeply, physically human that most of us can understand.
Now, it turns out, in Maslow's research, which spanned 5 continents, he found 2 main highways to these peak experiences. One, as we've just seen, is sex, and the other major pathway, music. Think about it. Both have this incredible power to just lift us out of ourselves and take us to another place entirely.
But this brings us to a really important question. A peak experience, whether it comes from sex or a beautiful piece of music, is amazing, but it's temporary. It comes and then it goes. So the author of our source material, Su Feng, asks a really critical question. Is chasing this temporary high really the ultimate goal of life? And his answer is a definite no. He argues that while these moments give us a taste of something incredible, the real goal is something much bigger. It's achieving an eternal state of bliss, a permanent condition that he compares to the Buddhist concept of the Pure Land of ultimate bliss. So instead of climbing to a peak and coming back down, he's talking about reaching a high plateau and just living there.
So how in the world do you do that? Well, the author introduces this fascinating concept called ziqia, which translates to self-containment. The core idea is that you cultivate both yin and yang, those complementary forces, inside of yourself. You essentially become a complete, self-sustaining ecosystem of bliss, where you don't need anything from the outside world to feel whole. The author lays out a kind of 4-step path to get there. First, you have to purify your mind. Pull out all the mental weeds that are choking out the good stuff. Second, you settle your karmic debts, basically clearing the slate so you're free from attachments. Third, you accumulate merit by doing good things, building up this foundation of positive energy. And finally, you elevate your consciousness to a whole new, enlightened level. Now that sounds like a massive undertaking, right? And it is. But the author says the map for this journey isn't some New Age invention. In fact, he argues that it's been laid out for centuries in a very famous ancient text.
And this quote from the Buddhist Heart Sutra really gets to the heart of it. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. It's this deep idea that the physical world we see, the form, and the spiritual reality beyond it, the emptiness, are actually 2 sides of the same coin. And if you can truly grasp that, you can break free from your attachment to all the external things that you thought you needed to be happy.
So this leaves us with a pretty huge question to think about.
Do we spend our lives chasing those incredible, fleeting peak experiences that are triggered by things outside of us, like music or another person, or, as our author suggests, is the real journey an internal one? A much harder, more disciplined path to creating a permanent state of bliss that comes completely from within. Where do you think the real answer lies?